Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Early Gate Show. Tonight, we're going to be doing another episode of Ghost Stories, and we're going to be welcoming back Jill, who appeared on our very first Bigfoot Stories show. Hi, Jill. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back.
Great to have you back. So you had some ghost stories that you'd like to share with everyone, and I'll let you just get started, and you can start wherever you want and tell us all what happened.
Sure. The one that stands out the most for me probably is when I was a little bit older. All my life, I've just been that person that saw shadows moving, or just always had something that I was prone to see. It felt like at times, but I was about 14. I had a friend. I grew up in Kansas, totally bored during the summer times, when we weren't all, helping with the parents on the farm or doing work. Sometimes we'd get bored. There wasn't a lot around. And I had a friend that was a couple years older than me, but she liked to go to the cemetery. She lived right across the street from the cemetery, and she had wanted to. There was a couple of other. It was just kind of like childhood friends around the area. We all kind of just met up there. They had been up there before, not me. It was a little later in the day. She wanted to take her dog for a walk, so it was me and her and two of her friends. They were male, and we met up there, and she was telling me about the stories of, there was a couple of really cool stories about just some different grave markers that, what kids would talk about. There was a statue of a black angel, and who knows, there was no information left on this, and you could tell it was very, very old, kind of setting the scene for all of us. And afterwards we decided it was getting dark, and she decided we wanted to do hide and seek. So it was girls against guys. So it was me and her. I call her Susan, just to have a reference. But me and Susan went to hide first, and so we picked a place. We're giggling, we're excited, we're wanting to find a really good hiding place, a better hiding place than the boys. And we crouched down. There's this big mausoleum in the middle of the cemetery, had a bell at the top. And so we crouched down, and in the cemetery there's lights all the way around it that kind of shine into it, but you really can't see anything from about the waist down, just because of how the hedges and everything are. So as long as we didn't stand up, I think we could have come pretty close to the guys, and they probably wouldn't have seen us. And there was a little bit of fog that night, really heavy fog, that kind of helped hide us, but we scrunched down. She had this little dog that she had brought with us, but he didn't come with us. He sat over. He wasn't worried about it. He sat outside. Just for some reason he didn't want to come with us. But we're scrunched down by this, and we're giggling, and we're trying not to laugh out loud, give our hiding place away, and we hear him whistle. And she's like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe they think we're that stupid. They think we're gonna whistle back." And he got a little bit closer, and he whistled again, and we're giggling and laughing, and we just keep hearing him get closer, and we're just having fun trying to hide from him and moving all the way around this mausoleum. And we'd hear him at another place, and we'd move around, and we're sitting there laughing, and all of a sudden her grip on my arm just tightens, and I see what she's looking at, and I'm laughing, but she's not laughing anymore, and she's looking over way out there where they had parked their bikes, the boys. And sure enough, they were out there. They weren't even looking at us. That wasn't them. And we just kind of looked back at each other, and we weren't really sure what was happening at that time. And then her dog just absolutely started barking right at the edge of where where it got dark to be. The cemetery has all kinds of trees that overshadow it. And we look over probably simultaneously because we keep hearing the sound of people walking, and still hear the whistle, and we're looking around, and sure enough we just see these two figures right by the Black Angel statue that's there, and they're maybe 10 feet from us. Well, they were almost glowing. They were almost glowing, and I think it was because of the fog. She swears it wasn't, but it looks like they just have chains all the way around their belts, and they're just standing there. And you could tell that they weren't even standing. I shouldn't say standing there, because they weren't on the ground, because we were below that light, and we could see they weren't. You couldn't see anything below that light. Like, you could only see them where the light shone. And she just started running, and she was running for the road. And of course, I look around and I tear off running as well. And I am running after her as fast as I can. And all of a sudden, she's just gone. And I see her, or I hear her. I turn around to see where I thought she had fallen over a log. And no, she fell straight into a freshly dug for probably the next day's service, a big old grave hole, and she is just clawing and trying to scramble out of there. So I helped her out of there, and she took off running again. And as I looked up, they were standing right at that edge, right? Whatever, they were definitely not people. They weren't made of any kind of matter whatsoever. They were just standing right by where that light started shining. It's like they couldn't go past that darkness. And the dog was just spitting and growling and backing up and barking. And we got to the road to the boys, and of course they didn't believe us, and they wanted to drive into the cemetery and find it, and I had nothing to do with that. But that was the first time that I really had something that was really in my face when I was old enough, because most of the things happened before that were, are kind of cloudy in my memory. Was it my imagination? But that's when I knew that there were things that were left here. And that was the first time another person had actually seen the same thing I did. So it was kind of validation for me that, okay, well, somebody else sees this stuff too. But I never went back to the cemetery like that.
I don't blame you, but it's definitely great validation if someone else sees the same thing you're seeing. It's always better.
It is.
And if nothing else, just for your own peace of mind.
Yes.
to know that you're not hallucinating or seeing things.
Yes. Or wondering why you're the only one.
But the boys' reaction, I can totally relate with, because that's what I would want to. I would want to. What is that? Let's go find it.
That would be my first reaction. Wanted to go find him.
That would definitely be my first.
Oh, that's cool. Let's go find it.
Do you have any more details about what they looked like? As far you mentioned something about a chain belt of some sort.
Honestly, and I don't know if it was just. I saw the chains hanging off this belt, and I'm not sure what the chains were about. It was just like chains hanging straight down. It was just chains hanging straight down. You could hear them. You could hear them, moving them. It almost felt like it reminded me later in the years when I actually saw the movie The Fog. It kind of had that feeling that they were. I can't really tell you what they were wearing exactly, because it didn't feel like it didn't look like they had clothes on. It just, from the waist down, they had all these chains, and they had no face. They were close enough. I would have been able to see a face, but there was just nothing but black. They had like a hoodie on, but not a hoodie.
Like a cliche of ghosts is like they're dragging a chain around. At least I'm trying, like in my head, I think of old cartoons, like maybe I'm thinking
Yeah,
of
like
Disney where the ghosts are pulling, have a
the
chain.
chains of
That's a
life.
thing. If I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken, if my memory serves me correctly, like the whole chain thing is actually it's like a cliche about ghosts. So that's the
yeah,
first thing that when you mentioned that popped out in my mind about the
yeah.
chains. That's supposedly like a historical thing about ghosts.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, I was so focused on the whistle. The whistle was just so haunting. I wish that was such a long time ago. I wish I could remember the actual sound. I mean, now it's kind of faded in my memory a little bit what it sounded like, but what I remember what it felt like hearing it. It definitely was a whistle that it was just haunting. Like it just bounced off, whatever the fog or the trees that were there, the stones, whatever. But yeah, it seems to be. I don't know if you have heard of the Clutter family, but that happened there. The book in Cold Blood. Their family is buried in that cemetery. So I grew up knowing that story, and so I think that probably added to the hype, or the feeling, because we all knew that there was a terrible tragedy that happened to a whole family. Then I felt guilty for even being there, and trying to play around in there. But yeah, that kind of was in the back of my mind as well, as that might have been tied to it, the haunting sound of that whistle too. And I never really went in. My grandma used to say it's a cemetery in the day and graveyard at night, and I knew what she meant. It's no place. There's a reason why you're not allowed in the graveyard, in the cemetery at night, for good reason, not just because most city rules are, and there especially, you weren't allowed. Once the sun goes down, you're not allowed in that cemetery. I think all cemeteries are like that. I'm not sure.
Most cemeteries are like that. Now, of course, there's security reasons. They don't want people going in and messing with stuff.
Right.
I think that's the main thing.
Exactly.
They're trying to
Yeah.
keep kids like you out of there from
Right. And they
being
should.
mischievous, falling in
Oh, can
holes.
you imagine? Busted through the board that they put over it and everything.
For our audience, can you just give a brief description of this Clutter family that you were talking about? I'd never heard that story before.
It is a whole family that was they made a book about it, and a movie, a couple movies, in Cold Blood. It was just a farming family, two guys in a prison. All it took was one rumor about this family being a rich family and having a safe in their house, which was not even true. And the two guys got out and went there, to rob them, but ended up doing so much more. One of them kind of went crazy while he was there, and bad things happened, and slaughtered the whole family. And then,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, I'd never heard that one before. I'll have to look that up. What was
yeah,
the name of the movie again? In Cold Blood? Is that the name?
yes.
What was the boys' final conclusion? Did they end up going in the graveyard, or did you talk them out of it, or what
Oh
happened?
yeah, they went all the way through it. They went all the way through it and didn't see a thing. I think they were high as kites, to be honest with you. I think they were probably, because they were older than us. So they were giggly. We'll put it that way. But yeah, they never saw a thing. But but me and my friend knew. And definitely that was also the first time that I realized the importance of having an animal as well. I truly believe that animals are they definitely sense way more than we do. And I believe that they even see things that we don't see just from personal experiences and hearing other people talk about it. I truly believe in that. Even horses, they sense something about people as well. So I believe that they can sense other things too.
They're very intuitive. Horses are.
Yeah.
They can sense a snake from several feet
Yes.
away, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
But you had some other
But,
experiences as well,
yeah.
correct?
Yeah. I have just been one of those people that I don't know that the things just happen. And I can remember my mom was like that as well. She used to clean a school at night, and I used to go with her. And I remember I was in the gym, and the schools are kind of eerie at night. I don't know why. I guess they're just so big and quiet. But I was sitting in the middle of the gym floor. It might sound a little bit cliche, but truly, there was a stage in this old gym, and I kept looking, and I was playing with whatever I was playing with. I don't remember what I was playing with, but I was playing with my toys in the middle. And up on the stage, it was an old auditorium. Old, everything's old in Kansas, but the curtain kept moving, and I knew my mom wasn't up there because I could hear the floor buffer, out in the hallway. But this curtain kept moving, and I'd look back down, and I'd see that moving. I'd look up, and I could never catch it while it was moving. But finally I did, and it did. It looked like someone just bumped up against it. You could almost see like the shape of them. And back then I thought maybe there's another kid here that I could play with. That's what my thought was. So I went up on the stage, and I opened the curtain, and the curtain, I remember the curtains were so much heavier than they looked like. The theater curtains are truly heavy. I kept running my hand around to find the middle of them. You know what I mean? Because it just looked like one big curtain, but I knew it separated in the middle. I got to a point where there was actually something behind the curtain. And when I pushed on it, it kind of pushed back. So I went screaming. I ran and jumped off the stage and went and got my mom, told her there was somebody behind that curtain. And she came up there and turned all the lights on, and there was nobody there. I did it again. I settled down, and I got to playing again. And sure enough, the curtains were moving. So once again, I went up on the stage, and I was running my hand along the curtain trying to find the middle of it. The middle just opened. It just opened. Like it just opened maybe 5-6 inches. The whole thing from the top, it didn't open like someone was opening it. At a point, it just, the middle of the curtains just opened. And I walked to the middle of this curtain, and I turned to face the gap. All I got was this rush of the coldest air. It took my breath away. The next thing I remember is my mom carrying me to the car. I guess I passed out or whatever happened. I didn't see anything, but I just remember this cold air just blasting me right in the face. And like I said, I don't remember anything until my mom was carrying me to the car, and I didn't get to go back with her at work to work again.
So I've felt that cold air. I have felt that twice. I know exactly
Really?
I know exactly what you're talking about. Definitely. Well, the cold once, but that cold air thing you're talking about, I
Mm-hmm.
have definitely experienced that one time, and it's not natural. It's a weird.
No.
It's the weirdest thing, and lots of people describe that, but I would never have believed it until I had to, Which is
Right.
smart. You shouldn't believe it until you experience it yourself. But
Mm-mm,
I gotta
no.
say, it was totally weird.
I'm telling you, once you feel it, it's not natural, and it wasn't coming from any kind of air unit. I don't think the schools even had, um, I remember them having floor fans, but you can hear those and you can feel those all the time. This was different, and just the blackness of that crack in the curtains was. And I've heard people describe the cold air before, but I've never really known anyone personally that had it. And it's not the only time I've felt it too. And that was just the scariest time.
Was this a high school or was this a
And
elementary
this was a
school?
elementary school. It was an old stage. The place I grew up is very close to Dodge City. And there were a lot of performances in those times back in old Dodge City. There were the stages were very well used. Before it was a school, it was a theater, just the old time theaters. The gym was built around it, and the chairs were all taken out so this gym could be built around it. So the stage actually had history, and you could tell just by walking on it. It wasn't a normal newly built stage. So the theater already had history. It already had a lot of action in the place. It was an old place, just built. There was a grade school built around it. I was going to the school, I remember. But I doubt I probably was maybe in first grade. I was very young for that one. Later on, I played in a piano recital on that stage, and I was in dance, and we performed on that stage. I always felt an extra tension on that stage, because we toured other places, like for the call, we did a performance. We did the can dance, and everybody wanted us, I guess, because we were so young. Um, we had the big ruffle dresses and everything, but it was a big deal, and so we toured, you know, all locally to different towns and colleges, but that stage always had an extra tension. I don't know how to explain it. And the stage felt different as well. There was little things that happened that, we'd have practice after school, and different lights are shut off, and it's not as bright, and there's not as many, it's just really you and your conductor and the other kids. Everybody else is gone, but there was always movement. There was always creaking in the floor of that stage that I would hear, and people would hear it as well, but they really didn't pay attention to it like I did. Can you imagine going from saloon dancer to a bunch of kids screaming all day? There was a scarf, just this random scarf one time that was found on the stage when we went in for practice. It was just laying across the stage, and it was such an old scarf, just like this white, it used to be white scarf that just laid across the stage. And one of the kids said that when we walked in, it looked like it was on somebody. I didn't see that though. And then it just fell onto the stage. But I always felt like, well, maybe somebody had heard the rumors about that theater and messing around with us that way. And I still to this day have random, not often, dreams about that particular area, the stage, and then behind the stage. I can't tell you really what was behind the stage, but yeah, still to this day I have dreams about that area, just randomly.
Are there any other experiences you'd like to share with everyone?
Sure. I have plenty, but one that comes to mind is later on in life, after I got out of school. My first job was at a Catholic hospital, and it back then it was run by the nuns. My first couple of months there, and there were certain parts of the hospital that when I was trained, and they, told me we just don't go. The elevator didn't go to all the floors. There was a basement. The basement was where the autopsies and the morgue and all that kind of stuff was kept. But there was a basement. But you could get there by the stairs. And I wasn't paying attention one day, and I went down too many flights of stairs and ended up going through the door. And the bad thing about it is once you went through the door, you couldn't get right back out without your card, swiping your card. Well, it didn't work on the basement. So I go through this door and I'm like, oh, I have my supper in my hand. I just want to have sit down for a break. I was headed for the cafeteria, but so I didn't really pay attention to, anything I just turned around, realized I was locked in there, but there was a phone right by there. Apparently I wasn't the only one that did that, but I called and told the guy, the security guard, what I had done, and he kind of chuckled and said, I'll be right there. But he said, oh, before I go, just make sure you don't go past the blue line. I was like, all right. I didn't really pay attention. I look back, leaned against the door, and waiting, and there was a blue line. But there's all these doors on each side. I was going down, looking in these doors, not paying attention, and I wasn't to the blue line yet. I was going down and looking in the windows, and it just looked like maybe, I don't know, like I don't know. You could tell it was old. The windows were still, they weren't really windows, they were bars. It almost looked like a prison. But all these gurneys were in these rooms as well, and most of them were empty, just empty gurneys. But there was one that I wasn't sure about. I kind of walked by and looked in, and I had to take a step back, and I'm looking at these, and I thought, well, that's just blankets. It's probably just blankets all folded up, and I'm standing there just looking intensely at this, and I thought it moved. Well, I know myself well enough by then, to know that, it's probably, you can just focus so intensely on something that, your eyes can play tricks on you at times. And it's not really light and bright down there either. So I'm just looking, and I thought, and sure enough, it moved again. And I'm like, what in the world? And just that time, the security guard, came through the door, and he's like, I told you not to go past. I said, it's not the blue line. And I looked down, and I'm still well behind the black line. The lights down there were so tinted that I thought it was the blue line, and it was actually the black line. And I was well behind the blue line. But I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what was going on. I just took off, running back to the door, and just said, let's get out of here because there's something moving in there. And he grabbed my arm, and he said, just remember, and he took me out of the door, and we got up the stairs a little bit. And he said, just remember, that's nothing down there. It was just so-and-so that was sleeping. It was one of the doctors that was sleeping. They sleep at night, He said, don't let that scare you, and don't forget that's Dr. So-and-so, that's where our doctors sleep when they have to work a 24-hour shift. Okay, well, I got back up to the floor that I was supposed to be on, and I kind of told one of my coworkers that story, and she said, oh, no, it sounds like you meant Shaky Red. I said, well, who's Shaky Red? She said, it's our ghost that wanders down. He was somebody that, he was an alcoholic. He got, stabbed to death outside of on our doorstep, made it back up to our doorstep, but he didn't make it all the way inside. He died on the steps. And I said, well, no, the security guard said, it was, she said, no, nobody goes down there to to sleep. And she showed me where the doctors could go. Oh, I had to go down there one more time.
Yeah, you
So
got to check that out.
I had to. So I went down there and I thought at the most it had to be like rats or something. So I go down there and I prop open the door and I sneak back down there, and the blankets are still, piled up like there's somebody there. But I can tell that it really doesn't look like there's anything there. And sure enough, what I'm seeing is it's not on the bed that I'm seeing the movement. There's a little corner that hangs off the bed of this, the blanket hangs off the bed. And I saw the tug. It was tugging, something was tugging this blanket. And I was done. I ran outside and I took it at face value that it was probably mice. I didn't want to see it anymore. But ever since then, when I went into the hallway, when I used the stairs, because I didn't use the elevator, when I, would go to the lab or anything like that, I always heard 2 sets of footsteps. It didn't matter if I was alone or with somebody. I always heard 2 sets of footsteps in that stairwell every time. Freaked me out for the longest time, but about my second year, I was like, all right, if you want to walk these steps as much as I do, you go ahead. I guess I'll just have company in the stairwell. Because, the nuns that ran that hospital, they weren't very approachable. So you already had this eerie feeling that was my welcome to the hospital, I think.
That reminds me of Silent Hill, the video game, the very first one. Now, they made a movie, of course, and they made several games after that one, Silent Hill 2, etc. But that definitely reminds me, that's very creepy, just like the Silent Hill movies. That's the first thing that came to my mind.
Oh my gosh, I never thought about that. And I couldn't get past the game. I literally maybe got to the second house on that game, and I couldn't do it. That it was a little too much. Of course, that was a long time ago. I was young when that came out, I think.
Oh yeah, the very first Silent Hill game.
Yeah,
it was creepy. The best part is at the beginning.
Movie,
at the beginning of the game, you would walk. You're walking. It gets dark. The sirens go off. And then you're walking down this like alleyway, and then you come across this wheelchair with the wheels spinning. And after that, you're like, "What?"
Oh my gosh!
I think, my brother was a lot younger when I was playing the game, and he was like, "I'm out of here," and he left.
All right.
He's like, "I'm not watching this." It got really
Are you
creepy.
Serious?
It got creepy really quick. Now that was a good game.
I was into
they
Resident
did a good job.
Evil. I was
those
playing
two.
Resident Evil at that time, I think, instead of Silent Hill.
Resident Evil 2 was a great one.
Yeah, I just thought, honestly, the Resident Evil, I remember mixing herbs, and that I was listening for the dog's toenails.
Oh yeah, and the spray, and the first aid spray.
The cool Midnight Sonata. What was it? Midnight Sonata that played that music. That music still gets me to this day.
Yeah, I played those all out of order. I played 2, then 3, and then 1. So I didn't do them in chronological order, but I still got. Even if you play them like that, you learn more about the whole story.
Yeah,
it's still, you don't have to play them exactly in chronological order. They're still fun to play. I really enjoyed you being on the show tonight. Thanks for joining us. And if anything else crazy ever happens, you have to definitely let us know. And maybe come back on and share some stories.
I would love to. Thank you.
All right. That's going to wrap it up for tonight, everybody. Until next time.